to the pop culture cosmos.
And we're back with another episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from the Pop Culture Cosmos, PC Multiverse, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, State of Pro Wrestling, Lakers Fast Break, all those great shows. And please, if you can, give us that 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. Plus, if you could like, share, and subscribe. Subscribe today to get the latest notifications of when we go live on the air with all those great shows. Plus, do what you can to help us out right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos, indeed. Plus, big shout out to all the radio stations after all these years who are still continuing to play our shows around the world. We give you our most heartedly thank you to you and your listeners for doing so, indeed. But it wouldn't be a Pop Culture Cosmos without my good friend. He is, of course, the man, the myth, the legend behind Humanican Media, the Super BS Gamescast, along with Brank, although don't tell him I said you were the man, myth, the legend, because he might get jealous. And also, as well, the Happy Hoarder, indeed. It is a man that you have got to go ahead and look at as far as what he has to sell to you in the world of collectibles at the Happy Hoarder, because it's that time of the year. It's the most retail time of the year. Absolutely. It is Josh the Great Peterson. What's up, man?
Well, so we all know that I am the man, the myth, the legend, and Brank is just those little boys don't get any credit on our show,
A
for being
minion, per se,
legendary.
maybe?
Little minions, yes,
Okay.
as he always refers to himself, the young boy of the show.
Okay, absolutely. All right, there you go. But check out the Super BS Gamescast. I am now part of the crew, I guess. Absolutely. And I'm very much appreciative of all the time that you allow me to go ahead and speak on that show where we talk the world of video games. But
We
it is
appreciate you
pop
being
culture.
on, man, for real.
Oh, absolutely. I love it. I love talking video games at length with you guys. We go into deep discussions there. We don't always have a chance to hear because there's so many topics to cover in pop culture. So, yes, I'm truly blessed to be part of the Super BS Gamescast. But don't forget to subscribe to Humanican Media and also follow the Happy Hoarder as well. But we got a great show lined up for you today. The aftermath of Black Friday, aftermath of Thanksgiving holiday. Still, right now, there's going to be some Cyber Monday deals still out there. So please check your local retailer on what you need to go ahead and buy. Even into early December, I'm sure some Christmas deals will still be on the table because people still be shopping for those not yet last minute gifts. But today we're talking about the Thanksgiving box office weekend. And oh my, a lot to talk about there. Plus a little bit of VR, a little bit of streaming, and who knows where the conversation flows right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. But first and foremost, with all the shopping that's been out there, my friend, and I tell you what, here in Vegas, all the malls were packed. The fashion shows, the outlets malls, even the other smaller malls, the malls that are off the strip, all the malls were packed here in Vegas. But if they weren't shopping, they were watching movies because this weekend is the biggest weekend ever. I believe. I guess what they're calling it is what I'm going to quote Hollywood Reporter: unparalleled post-pandemic victory at the box office. And it starts off with Moana 2. We'll get into Moana 2 first, my friend. Over the course of the Thanksgiving holiday weekend, looks like it's going to earn right in between $215 to $220 million, which is well above expectations. I think 175 was the target there. Your thoughts, my friend, because I have some on why Moana 2 really, really it made some waves, pardon the pun, at the box office this weekend.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you this. Why do you think so there are people going to see it, but why do you think the critics have given it such a poor rating across the
So
board.
it will probably go down if it makes $1 billion, which at this point it should. It depends on the legs, but right now the way it's getting off to such a great start, it should. It will probably be one of the lowest critically lauded movies as far as ratings are concerned. Critics have just lambasted the movie, but audiences, I think overall the cinema score is an A- from fans, so there is quite a divide. I can tell you the number one reason why families and kids are going to see it this weekend. And I did a little bit of research, and what I found out is on Disney Plus. Now, Disney Plus does not have the 250 million subscribers that Netflix does, but it does have over 150 million subscribers. And one of the things that a lot of those subscribers to do, as you know, Josh, is check out a lot of Disney movies. That's the one thing for the individuals that stay on Disney Plus. Maybe that they don't get enough for the Star Wars and Marvel shows on there. Maybe they get too much. Maybe there's always an issue as far as getting original shows. Okay, I get that. Adding in the Hulu stuff, but not adding in the Hulu stuff, but kind of adding in the Hulu stuff. Okay, whatever. But the reason why a lot of people stay there outside of Bluey is because of the Disney original content that they have there as far as the movies and the shows from the past. And the most watched movie, as far as from the research I'm able to do and ascertain, is Moana. So, Moana being that movie that has just resonated with that audience. And I believe this is the fallout from that. This is the fallout from Moana being the number one movie. I caught my wife last week watching Moana for the dog that I have and watching it so they could both be watching it in trance last week. I have a feeling again that's part of the reason why you're seeing such a huge open. Now, is it front loaded? Could it be front loaded? That's quite a possibility. But a lot of that I think is due to the sheer volume of views that the original Moana gained on Disney Plus.
Yes. Oh, absolutely, man. And that's one. I mean, I'm guilty of it too. My kids are sitting down, I'll throw on Moana and just let them watch. But it
Sorry, Melinda, by the way, with Emperor's New Groove, which is the reason why she has Disney Plus, because she has seen it numerous times. That's her favorite one. But
you
yes,
know,
that's not number
it's
one list.
it's funny. Emperor's New Groove. Let's see. There's Emperor's New Groove, Atlantis, Treasure Planet. Like that was all part of this
Hercules.
Hercules, a string of animated films that people love now, but Disney kind of just went like, oh, you know, moms don't like to take their kids to movies like that, so we're just gonna
There's
change.
a lot of movies from the mid to late 90s that didn't resonate with audiences that are much revered now. We've talked about those movies, Treasure Planet, Hercules. Then you go into other movies like Starship Troopers,
Hmm.
just other movies like that that came out in those mid to late 90s that are much revered.
It,
Yeah, it's
it
it's
makes you wonder though, like what shifted in that time period? Because I know Mike Minola actually was worked on a lot of those Disney movies that
Galaxy Quest.
Galaxy Quest. Yeah, yeah. What happened, man? Where was the shift? Where was the audience shift? Was there some sort of like market survey done? I don't understand it.
We missed out on a lot of good movies at that time. Although I actually did see Galaxy Quest in the theater, so
Well,
I have to say I was
it's
part of
not so
that. But
much.
and
Yeah,
Starship Troopers in the theaters. I
and
saw both in the theater, so I was on that train early. So,
right, but it's not
but
so much that we miss them. It's just that style of film just doesn't get made anymore.
yeah,
You
but I
know?
did see Showgirls in theaters too, and I really kind of regret that. So we need I digress on that. So
Yeah.
yeah,
But anyways,
one Verhoeven film good, one Verhoeven film not so good.
yeah,
But
that was the beauty of the '90s, though. Like, there's a lot of like shots fired, and what some things stuck and some things didn't. But it's not like today where there's not that much variety in the movie theaters. You get your Disney Channel movie, or not Disney Channel. You get your like Disney films, your franchises, and every once in a while you get a rom com in the movies.
yeah, absolutely. Well, that's when the rom-coms really started to kick in. Of course, we know that then in the 2000s and Matthew McConaughey, and
Yeah.
I know he will never be part of seemingly a rom-com again, if that's the case, because he did his film. But getting back to the reason why that Disney Plus does have a core audience since its inception is because of the fact that the movies that are on it, those classic Disney movies, it's taken place of those VHS tapes that were so revered that always seemed to come out. They would re-release it for a period of time. They would re-release it for a period of time. As far as VHS tapes, people would buy them. Same thing when it migrated into DVDs. They would have these releases for limited releases for a period of time for certain specific movies, and people would flock to it. Now they're getting full access to it, and obviously Moana, which didn't do bad at the box office at all. It did really good at the box office. Is it the all-time greatest animated hit for Disney animation? No, but still, it's something that once it got to a streaming platform, a lot like Elemental. Elemental started off slow at the box office, had legs. It lasted a long time in theaters. Turned out it made what, around 400 million or so at the box office. It's okay, but for the money they put it into it, it's not, it may have broke even at best. But you get it on streaming, Josh, and it became a huge hit on streaming for months. So with that, again, Moana, the original, made just under $650 million. Pretty darn good, but not the $1 billion blockbuster you would think would necessitate just the high volume of viewers on Disney Plus, and thus also seeing what we're seeing now with Moana 2. Where's that connection, my friend? I'm just wondering how this movie has just generated so much more enthusiasm today than it did originally in 2016.
Yeah, right. No, and I am curious about that too. But I'm also like, why do the critics seem to hate it, but the average film person seems to enjoy it? I mean, it's like you said, everyone shows their kids. Everyone, they go to Disneyland or Disney World or whatever. Everyone wants to go check out, see Moana and take pictures and get the Moana gear and all that. But it's like with the critics though, I don't understand. Like, I think that any Disney movie that has a sequel that even manages to make it into the theaters is a miracle in itself. So what could you possibly, as a critic, what could you possibly be expecting from a movie? Like, IGN gave it a 4 out of 10. What could you possibly be expecting this movie to be like that would have you rate it so low?
Maybe it's when you look at it from a critical standpoint, maybe it's using a derivative of the same themes of the original. Maybe it walks that same line as the
That's what people
original.
want, though. That's what the moms and the kids want.
But maybe if you already sat through Moana once as a critic and you're looking at it as just a sheer artistic piece of work, Josh, maybe that they're saying, you know what, I've already had my fill of this type of story, and seeing it again maybe just is not to their liking.
I mean, look at the box office, though. People are still going to see it. So
Because it's not the critics are not their audience. The
yeah,
the a guy in the suit that's going to catch it, that works for the paper, or that has the YouTube channel with 100,000 followers or 200,000 followers or 500,000 followers. The movie's not made for them.
right,
The
right.
movie is made for those families, lighter entertainment. The jokes are lightweight. The everything is just lightweight. And as you and I, as parents, what do we do when we go see these films? When we go see these films, are we actually enjoying it? Or are we just actually worried about if the kids are enjoying it?
Yeah, I'm worried about if the kids are enjoying it, and am I gonna have to chase them around the movie theater?
Yes. So are they interested? Are they keeping their eyes on the screen? That's all I care about. I mean, all those movies, the Smurfs movies and the Care Bears movies and all the movies I had to go see when my girls were growing up. I didn't I couldn't even tell you the plot of those movies, Josh. all I cared about is me looking over and making sure that they're looking up at the screen and enjoying what they like.
Yeah.
That's all I cared. I mean, it's so funny because recently, earlier this year, I was noticing what was trending on Netflix was the Emoji Movie. And the Emoji Movie, I actually took my youngest daughter to go see. She absolutely loved it back, because she was just a young girl that time. Now that she's a teenager, she can't stand it.
A lot of movies like that.
I thought it was terrible from the get-go, and obviously it was one of those movies, like you said, did very well at the box office, but personally, it was reviled by critics.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. The plot and the movie catered to a certain audience, a certain demographic. That's what it connected with. And when it got to Netflix, it looks like it connected with it again. That's why it did so well for quite a spell on Netflix earlier this year. So yeah, that mindset when you go to Moana 2 as a parent, you kind of shut off a part of a brain that's critical of this film. You just want to see your happiness in your child and or your children. And if they enjoy it, you're giving the movie a thumbs up.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And obviously, the person over at IGN does not have kids they take to the movie theaters, so
Or didn't at that time. Yeah.
most likely, yeah, or didn't at that time. But yeah, I mean, I can see this movie making at least 500 million. What are your thoughts?
I think it will probably come close to that within its first 10 days.
Yeah, because
Uh,
when I was going to see Gladiator, they're already clearing Gladiator out of the like the IMAX and the the giant screens at Cinemark to make room for Moana. So obviously, the theaters are expecting big turnouts for this one.
and it came out on a Wednesday, Josh, because of the holiday. Or no, actually, the previews were Tuesday night. So this has been
Yeah,
out since Tuesday night, but in general release since Wednesday. And if that's the case, yeah, I'd see it getting 500 million worldwide probably by next weekend. It's already we're going to the numbers.com right now, and in its first days before the final tally for the weekend, it's already at $200 million worldwide. That's for the reported days, I believe, on Tuesday and Wednesday, maybe even Thursday if you're including that. But yes, that doesn't account for Friday, Saturday, the actual weekend totals, which they report on, or they report out as far as a general number on Sunday, and then they give the actuals on Monday or Tuesday, depending on the holiday. But yeah, by the end of the next week, I have a feeling it will go beyond that. It's probably, even if it tails off more so than what a normal movie of that type would, I still say it has a great chance of hitting $1 billion.
which will be interesting because all three, if that crosses $1 billion, all three movies that crossed $1 billion by the end of the year will have been put out by Disney.
Well, I mean, this time last year they were struggling hard. They had failure after failure after failure. Remember Wish?
Hmm.
Yes, they had failure after failure after failure. So to see them coming back strong, is a good thing to see. But I tell you what, my friend, there's more to talk about on today's show, including the success so far of the weekend, because it is probably one of the best Thanksgiving weekends. It is, without a doubt, one of the best Thanksgiving weekends of all time, because you have not only one, you have not only two, but you have three movies that people are talking about and are seeing at the box office. And Wicked, still holding decently in its second week at the box office. It is still right now going into the weekend about $264 million worldwide. So it is holding strong right there. Now, Wicked probably will get somewhere between, I think, what am I going to say, about 100. Yeah, Wicked is looks probably about 425 million as far as the overall 5-day revenue for both those movies combined. So yeah, right now it is looking really, really good for that film. So tell me about Wicked. Are you surprised it's holding strong? Are you surprised it's holding firm against Moana 2? Tell me your thoughts as far as how big this movie can be, especially because it does have some Academy Award buzz along with it.
I mean, I'm not surprised at all. I mean, 264 million worldwide so far. Like yeah, I was expecting it to breach 500 million, but I this is one of those movies where with Moana, you have parents taking their kids to see the movie begrudgingly, right? Like,
Mhm.
I'm here. There's an experience for my kids. Wicked is something I'm actually seeing a lot of moms like taking their kids to, and they enjoy it together. So that is definitely one thing that Wicked does have going for it that Moana doesn't. But it is absolutely no surprise. I mean, Wicked is we use this word lightly here on this show, but a pop culture phenomenon. Remember from way back when the musical became popular and the book came out and all that stuff. Like people have been massive fans of this musical forever. So it's
Yes.
no surprise that it's as successful as it has been. So is this going to translate? Is this success going to translate into the part two? I don't know. I personally haven't read any reviews for Wicked, but I still have spoken to a lot of people who have come out of that theater like super excited about it.
It looks like it's going to do, and I want to clarify my last statements on it because it was kind of unclear the way Hollywood Reporter was putting it out. It looks like over the course of the weekend, the entire movies domestically will earn a record Thanksgiving box office record of about $425 million combined at the box office. Wicked is probably going to do about 115 to 120 million dollars of that, and that on the second weekend is pretty darn good. It will probably get close to $300 million worldwide, if not over that by this time, as far as on Monday, when we release this show to most of our audiences out there. Gladiator 2 is seeing about $50 million over the Thanksgiving Day weekend. That's a movie you went to go finally check out. I have still yet to see it. I still want to see it. Although I have my apprehensions, my friend, because it's a sequel nobody was really asking for, but did anybody really want it?
Yeah, okay. So I have a lot of mixed feelings about this. But I talked to Brank briefly on the Super BS show about this this past week. But Gladiator 2 is a movie that I don't regret watching. I'm happy I spent that time in the theater, but I also didn't need to see it. Or it more so it didn't need to be made.
Hmm.
And
I agree.
it's a sequel that is living in the colossal shadow of the original. So there's a lot of things. I'm gonna try not to spoil too much here, but there's a lot of things that they actually lean very heavily on the original Gladiator
Oh, that's
to.
okay. I had an in-law that spoiled it for me right there at the party. We were having a Thanksgiving
Oh
party, and
no!
we're a whole group of people like, "Oh, you just saw Gladiator 2 earlier today? Oh yeah, Denzel Washington was terrific in the movie. Blank, 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 and then blank, blank, blank." And I'm like,
Oh,
"Oh, everybody!" It's just like
why?
because I knew one of the spoilers
Yeah,
in regards to Denzel, and I knew one of the spoilers in regards to Paul Mescal,
yeah.
but I didn't know the other spoiler with Denzel Washington, and I'll just leave it at that, my friend. But yeah, that's like that was she dropped that, and it was like, oh,
Yeah.
thanks a lot.
It's funny
Uh,
they do a
that's
good.
like that Homer Simpson bit in The Simpsons when he's leaving Return Empire Strikes Back,
Mhm.
and he's walking by the line. Oh yeah,
Oh, that's right,
yeah,
that's right,
yeah. I
yep,
didn't,
yep.
what's that? That was such a surprise with Darth Vader being Luke's father. Yeah, like the line was just like, oh, oh, like going home after that.
It's funny, so the only time that's ever happened to me was I went to see I'll get back to Gladiator in a second, but I went to see, X-Men 2, came out, like, May 4th, whatever year that was released, and I was walking into the theater, this guy walks out, and you know how, like, teenagers think that they're funny and they do stupid things to irritate people because they get a chuckle out of it.
Mhm.
This kid walks out and he goes, "I can't believe Jean Grey dies," as he's looking at everybody around him walking into the theater, and I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, no, no, they wouldn't do that. And lo and behold, they sure did. So, always been pretty grateful for that. But yeah, I mean, Gladiator 2, they, about Denzel. They did a good job of not letting you think that he was going to be what he was until, near the end of the movie. The
Yes.
they Russell Crowe might as well have been in this movie because he's talked about so much, and they do so many
So
flashbacks
I've heard.
towards him. Yeah, and his armor gets a chance to be in the film. Um,
I
what
don't
you know?
think he would, with all due respect, I don't think, it's been 20 years.
Yeah,
He'd have to get into like Wolverine shape to get back into that gear again. Give him a little
yeah.
bit. Yeah.
I will say that the entire movie is so incredibly predictable that you can watch it. Almost feels like the movie is fan service to people who enjoyed the original Gladiator, and that
And is
part,
that good? Is that good? I don't know if that's really good
I don't
for.
think so. And it's missing what makes Ridley Scott so special, though. Like that, the way he really pays attention to his scenes and like the art that he puts into it. Like this felt like a movie that came off of a conveyor belt. And it's funny because I was thinking that, and I actually read a piece that someone wrote. The cinematographer is an interview with the cinematographer of this. I actually read something he said last week saying that Ridley Scott has changed. Instead of him like taking time to do his movies, he's rushing to get things done, rush, rush, rush. And I was
Because
thinking like,
he's
oh, man,
87.
right, right. So he's got all these, he's doing all the trying to get all these things done before his time comes, I guess. But it I don't know, it lacks a lot that the original had. And like I said, I don't regret watching it, but it feels like they took too much from the playbook of Gladiator 1 and just kind of copied and pasted a lot of things with different actors.
That's a shame because, I still will see it, but yeah, it's a shame that that's the case. But your thoughts and reviews are not unlike I've already seen and heard of non-spoiler reviews already, because it is fan service or I've heard that 3 times already. I've heard that it relies heavily upon the events of Gladiator, for many different reasons, that some of which I don't want to go into because it does spoiler. But I also heard Denzel Washington steals the show, which may or may not be a good thing in this situation because Denzel Washington is one of the finest actors on the planet. Let's just get that out of the way. But with a new young star that you want to push as the Gladiator, if there's someone that's just absolutely just knocking it out of the park in each and every scene that he's in with him in there, does it serve Paul Mescal well to know that there's this world class actor that's essentially showing him up in every scene? Or how does Paul Mescal fare up against Denzel Washington?
He does pretty okay, so he's a very stoic character. When I say stoic, I mean like he was written that way. And so he
Hmm.
doesn't say a lot. Like when he acts, he doesn't really act as much as he's just kind of like talking. And again, I know he was written that way, so it's no fault of Paul Mescal.
Is it like Russell Crowe when he had already had he was a different man until he got betrayed, and then he became at times the stoic guy before he was forced into Gladiator? It's a lot like that.
Yes and no. So they had an opportunity to do that, but okay. So Gladiator 1 opens with that massive battle scene, right, where Russell Crowe, they're
Germania.
fighting in Germania. Yeah, they're fighting the barbarian horde. Um, it seemed like they were teeing that up to happen, right? They showed Paul Mescal and he's with his wife, and as his wife's suiting up, you're like, oh man, she's gonna die for sure, and that's gonna be what kickstarts the whole thing. And lo and behold, I don't need to spoil that for you to know that that's what happened. But there's a battle scene in the beginning of the movie that lasted like 10 seconds. There's no detail, no emotion. It just like happens, and you see Paul Mescal's character get knocked out, blackout, battle's over. So it felt like they really ripped us off in terms of like character development in that moment. You could see Pedro Pascal have a big like moment there, but not our main hero. And I think that's what really kind of dragged him down a little bit. Like I think that the movie does shine Pedro Pascal and Denzel Washington a lot more than this, Paul Mescal, who is a great actor. I think that he really did a great job in his role, but he just didn't get the opportunity. He didn't have the script that he needed to truly shine.
What about Paul? What about Pedro Pascal? Obviously, he's one of the hottest actors on the planet. And in doing so, obviously he's got a lot in his plate right now. He's appearing from everything from beer commercials to Last of Us to, he's doing so much Fantastic Four. How did they, how did he do, or what kind of treatment was he given? Because in the trailer, they lead you to believe he is doing something or he is perceived as one way, but it may not necessarily be the case when all is said and done.
Yeah, he's a real sleight of hands in the movie, right? You think that he's up to one character thinks he's one way, another character thinks he's another way, but he has his own like more noble motivations. Like you can tell that all the death really gets to him, like him being forced by these two like psychotic emperors to do the things that he has had to do has really affected his psyche, and he's getting to the point where he's like, I can't do this anymore. But because he led the campaign that ended up killing what was it, Paul Mescal's wife, he is seen through the lens of oh shoot, I can't remember Lucius. He's seen through the Lucius's eyes as being the villain, and then you find out that I can't even spoil it, but you find out like Pedro Pascal, and there's so many other people in the movie, like they keep referencing Maximus. They're like, oh, I know, and I loved Maximus, and um yeah, they already spoiled this in interviews. You find out that Maximus is Lucius's father, but
Yes.
but yeah, they have like Pedro Pascal he is that character who's conflicted about what he's done. He's torn between his duty to his country and his sense of morality, and that's constantly being tested. And yeah, I think that he really shines in this movie, but I feel like that what I'm trying to say, that development should have been given to the main hero of the film.
Last but not least, Joaquin Phoenix was such a delightful villain to me, one of the best villains of that era. I don't want to say it was basically Mr. Smith by Hugo Weaving, then him, Joaquin Phoenix as the Emperor, and that evolved into Heath Ledger's Joker. As far as for me, I may be missing someone, but as far as villains, I thought at that period of time in the late 90s, early 2000s to mid 2000s, in that era, that first decade or that less than decade period of time, I thought those were three that villain roles that were really absolutely killing it. Your thoughts, my friend, on the villain aspect, because it's a different outlook. He wanted to, I think, portrayed by twins or brothers in this time around.
Yes. Okay. So Joaquin Phoenix was a terrifying villain because he was intelligent, right? He was intelligent, and everything he did was on purpose
And emotional, though.
emotional and everything. Yeah, he was driven by this like sense of rage towards his father. These two emperors are absolutely psychotic, and you could tell they're just like they're paranoid, they're psychotic, they're terrified of what they do things, their actions cause riots and all this stuff, and they don't really care. They just keep on doing the same things, and that ultimately leads to their downfall. But Joseph Quinn, amazing in this. I don't know what the other guy's name was. He was so they're kind of yin and yang to each other, right? Joseph Quinn was the one that um he made all the sound choices while giving his brother the illusion that he was in power, and his brother is like this crazy
Fred
kid.
Heikinder.
Fred Heikinder. Okay, yeah. So he was a character who had no intellect at all. He's all about partying, and in the movie they hinted at him having some sort of like venereal disease that was killing him and breaking him down. You can see all like the sores and stuff all over his face, but he they even make a line through that, you have to apologize for my brother, whatever he has is eating at his brain. So you could tell that brother was not all there, so it was up to Joseph Quinn's character to kind of balance the two and protect the brother while trying to run the country. And I think that yeah, he really shined in that movie. The other kid, I mean, he could have been good, I guess, but he just wasn't given the right character to, I don't know, be a good be worthy of an Academy Award, if you know what I mean.
Look at Joseph Quinn. My gosh, man, the
Yeah,
guy is,
he's coming up.
A Quiet Place day one, and
Yeah.
now here he's having a pretty good year for. Guess that's what happens when you get killed off in Stranger Things, doesn't it? Yeah.
We don't know that he's dead, but yeah,
Well,
yeah.
that's
I
right.
mean, yeah, Fantastic Four is coming out. Like he's really. Who would have thought that being a stoner was going to unlock so many roles for him? But
We miss that calling in our lives, my friends.
I
So
know, I know. Hey, I'm for real though. I'm stoked for him. He's, from what I understand, I've talked to people who met him at conventions and stuff. He sounds like a really cool guy.
I'm happy for him as well. When you see somebody's career that has not gone out of their way to, get anybody mad, get canceled, said something wrong, not just working hard, getting roles, and you see that, oh, he's got this one role that somebody believed in him. Now Hollywood as an industry believes in him. So you see him getting higher and higher on the food chain as far as oh, he's at this level. Now he's going to this level. Now he's going into this level. So it's interesting the way that it plays out. I just wanted to mention as well, one of the, if since we're going into, or I talked about before, some of the best villains of that era. I do got to mention before I get at by somebody, Chiwetel I always say his name wrong. Ejiofor from Serenity, who did probably one of the best villain roles that's underrated of all time in that movie in Serenity. So just wanted to go ahead and mention that. But yeah, I mean, just seeing his career, Joseph Quinn, rising is good. But overall, do you give it a pass? Do you give it a negative? Do you give it a it's good? What do you think about Gladiator 2? We never really give, like, when we give out reviews, when we do reviews, we don't have like this standard scoring system. Sometimes we just go say, or we go, there you go.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I mean, I'm probably sticking at like a 7 out of 10 for it.
Mhm.
It could be better. It could have been worse too. So like I said, I didn't not like the time I spent with it, but it was trying to fill some really big shoes that didn't need to be filled in the first place.
So let me ask you this: how was last thing on this on Gladiator 2? How was the score? Because the score was absolutely fantastic in the original.
I it was good actually. Like it was, they got that typical like ancient Greek, not Greek, but Greek Roman movie soundtrack going with the woman like wailing in the background with the orchestral setup. So that was really good. Yeah, I mean the music played to the emotions really well. I just wish that there were more emotions for the music to play to.
All right. Well, those are the top three at the box office. It is a record setting Thanksgiving weekend. It looks like it's going to get somewhere in the neighborhood of $425 million domestically. Hopefully, we can go ahead and update you on the actual numbers once they come out, hopefully on the Friday show. Maybe Melinda and I will cover it, or Josh and I will cover it again on next week's show. But do you have thoughts on the Thanksgiving Day movies? Of course, Red One, much further behind some of the other movies that were also much further behind as well. There's so like the Wild Robot is still getting numbers. Shout out to the Wild Robot because this movie looks like it's going to be this generation's robot animated movie you need to see, Josh.
Yeah, I've actually heard really great things about this movie, and
It looks like it's going to be in the top 10 for its 10th week. So it
good,
looks like it.
good, man. I mean, I don't know if I'm gonna get a chance. That's Illumination makes that, or is that DreamWorks, or
I
who's
think it's DreamWorks
DreamWorks?
again
Okay, yeah. I don't think I'm gonna get a chance to watch it in the theater, but I mean, when
with
it
Universal on that. So
gotcha. Okay, yeah, when it comes out, I mean, I'm definitely gonna be checking it out. But yeah, I've heard amazing things about this movie. It kind of came out of nowhere, so it does have my attention and my respect for being an animated film that is as successful as it's been.
Last thing, when you were touching on the box office, Venom: The Last Dance is still in theaters as well. It's probably in its final run. It may, most likely not, though, get to $500 million. I think this movie, I think, was a little cheaper to make, somewhere between, I think, around $100 million with advertising and whatnot. Say it's called around $100 million. Let's just say that, as far as it's concerned. Do you think this is going to be down or go down as a success in regards to where it stands? In regards to, let's say it gets just under $500 million, where it's headed to now. Your thoughts on the finish for Venom with Venom: The Last Dance?
It's hard to say with where the standards are for Venom. I mean, what do they measure as success? So I will be honest, I really enjoyed the first one. Did not care for the second one. Haven't seen the third one yet. So
Mhm.
I
It is the poorest performing, or will be the poorest performing of the three movies.
and I mean, and that's what I understand, that none of those three films were performed very well. I think everyone was just like
The
hoping
first
that
one did.
did it? Okay, yeah, because I know everyone was hoping, it was like kind of tolerating it because they're hoping that it would eventually lead up to, that introduction into the MCU, or that brawl with Spider-Man or
Right.
Tom Holland's
Yeah,
Spider-Man. But
the first one earned almost $900 million at the box office. I don't like any of them, to be honest with you. I just like the dynamic between Tom Hardy and Venom.
yeah,
You could throw all those stories out. Sorry, Woody Harrelson, for the second one, but yeah, just all three of the stories are terrible.
yeah,
But the dynamic between the two is really what works. But yes, the fact that Sony never really bothered to really tie in or have a face-to-face confrontation with Spider-Man. They may at some point down the line, but is it too little, too late?
probably, yeah.
That's the problem, because they probably will meet at some point in time. They'll probably pay Tom Hardy to do a cameo, or do like a Robert Downey Jr. esque style,
Mhm.
show up in a Spider-Man movie, one of Tom Holland's future Spider-Man movies. But at that point in time, it's just like, okay, the initial excitement is gone already. So yeah,
They made
that's
you think there was going to be something like that, though, with what was it,
the
Endgame?
second one.
Second, yeah, yeah, they,
The second one, yeah,
yeah,
is
yeah, right when he ended up in, I don't remember what movie that was, like, on the edge, or in the ending credit scene of, was that the second movie? And
that
then
was the second movie. It's The Last Dance, where he goes to the bar,
that's
and
right.
then he gets like he wakes up, and he's watching some of the events of the Spider-Man, and he says, "That's what I'm going to go out. That's the guy I got to go after." And then, but you saw the little piece of Venom stay behind at the bar, if
Mhm.
I remember correctly. Yeah, nothing is really come out of that. Even if that is related to in this latest film, it's not really. It's there, but it's not there. But yes,
Yeah.
again, the fact that him and Tom Holland, their characters never meet. At this point, if they do, it's just like, it's there. Big deal.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, honestly, man, like, I could take or leave Venom. I don't, like I said, I don't know what the bar, where the bar is set for those movies. Perhaps they're satisfied with the box office returns, but nothing in Sony's wheelhouse with Spider-Man is really that spectacular right now. And if they were smart, they'd be utilizing Toby Maguire and Andrew Garfield's characters to, in some capacity. But I don't know if there's like contract confliction with Marvel. But on the opposite side of that, though, Craven the Hunter looks like it could be okay. Like, the you don't think so?
I think that's Morbius, Madam Web. I think that's
Interesting.
going to get that kind of return. I mean, that's the vibes I'm feeling. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping you are right and I'm wrong on that one. I'm hoping you are right and I'm wrong on that one.
Yeah, like I said, man, it's hard to say. I don't know what's going on with that.
He's already moved on to James Bond.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. Yeah, I forgot he's playing that role. I do like that interview with Daniel Craig where they asked him, like, how he feels or who he thinks should play the character next. He goes, "I don't care." Like he's just he's just done washing his hands of it. But
He's done. Yep.
yeah, I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic about Craven the Hunter. But again, like you're building this universe, a Spider-Man universe without a Spider-Man. So there's that.
But he is going to come back and do his own Spider-Man movies. But if again it doesn't, bring in the Craven the Hunters, the Venoms,
Yeah.
the Madam Webs, the Morbius, why do it? I mean, we're still waiting for the Scorpion. If you remember from Homecoming, the
Mm-hmm.
Scorpion was alluded to in the end credit scenes there, and nothing came of that.
Absolutely nothing. Yeah. So what exactly are they doing right now?
Sony. Well, remember, they are the company that put 8 years later when they should have put four. But yeah, need I
Right.
digress
Right.
on that one.
Yeah. Exactly.
But what are your thoughts out there on the Thanksgiving set of movies that were out and available for this Thanksgiving Day weekend? A record box office haul. I just checked it on the list right there, and it looks like it's going to head to about a $425 million domestic haul. That's a record for before or after the pandemic. So please let us know your thoughts if you're checking out the movies this weekend. What did you go see? Was it Moana 2? Was it Wicked? Or was it Gladiator 2? Please let us know your thoughts. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. Well, my friend, our box office talk took quite a bit of time, which was actually really cool. For once we have gotten into box office, it's always been streaming shows, video games, this and that. You don't get a chance to talk box office a lot, so I appreciate that. In fact, my daughter earlier today, uh, she was part of a trivia college thing, UNLV versus Nevada Reno. They had a trivia contest. They flew Nevada Reno students down against some students from UNLV. They did a trivia contest. I'll ask you the question they asked them, and they did know the answer, by the way. What is the biggest movie of all time? Parentheses adjusted for inflation.
Adjusted for inflation.
And I will tell you in advance, yes, I knew the answer in advance. The only one in the room, I think, that did.
It's either
Now that I'm
Avatar or Titanic, one of the two.
My daughter guessed Avatar, and she was wrong.
Is it
And,
Titanic? What was
it's
it?
not. The key words there are adjusted for inflation.
What does
It's
that
gone
mean?
with it's gone with
Oh, that makes sense. Okay.
it is
Okay.
gone with the wind. Because you call me Mr. Box Office all the time for years,
Yeah.
I had to know that answer. So, yeah. Although my daughter got several questions right, that one was just like nobody got it. It was just like I was like, oh, right there in the third row. I was like, going with the wind, going with the wind, going with the wind, and it was
Right.
like
Yeah.
well, okay, her guess was good. I won't say what. Well, okay, the other side, they guessed Top Gun Maverick.
Oh no, that's not even close. I'm sure.
But need I digress? They did kill it in math, so respects to Nevada Reno on that, who did win by 2 points in the overall championship on that. So I will say though, there's much less, there's much more to talk about here on today's show before we head on out. VR. I wanted to ask you this because of the Black Friday sales that were out. One more gigantic push for VR by Sony and by Meta. The MetaQuest. This wasn't the MetaQuest 3. This was the MetaQuest, like not. This is the entry level MetaQuest. Can you clue me in on that? The one that had the big sale we were talking about on last week's show was on with the Super BS or on the Cosmos, where we were talking about the MetaQuest that was on sale, uh, getting a $75 credit. This is not the actual top of the line MetaQuest. This is the entry level MetaQuest. Can you kind of clue me in on that one?
Yes, the 3S. So this has 128 gigabytes versus the 512 gigabytes. So this one is,
Okay.
and it does not come with the controllers. So it's literally just the headset. And I think it comes with there's one of them came with Batman and a preview for whatever their game service software is.
Well, that's the one that, yeah, the entry level one did come with both those.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. So that was, but yeah, so that was like the very entry level, like the having the PlayStation or the Xbox Series S, versus the X. That would be the difference between the two. It's and I mean, I think it's still worth it. Like I considered, I mean, I can't do it right now, but yeah, it was because I know I think virtual reality it's slowly starting to get there. It's not as fast as it should have been. There's a lot of missteps with it and still got a long way to go. But I did see some gameplay footage of the Mobile Suit Gundam Silver Phantom. We're actually like piloting the Gundams, and that looked pretty cool. But I don't think that all games are designed in that same way. So when you have like an RPG or something, I feel like those elements, until you have like a full bodysuit and like a traction pad or whatever beneath your feet, I feel like those experiences are still going to be lacking.
Now the MetaQuest 3, which isn't the 3S, the 3 that does come with the higher gigabytes of storage, 512, plus you said that one comes with the controllers.
Mm-hmm.
That one has been reduced. Now, if you're listening to this, check quickly, may or may not be still the case, but I'm assuming through Cyber Monday for many of these offers, $649 to $499. So they're taking $150 off the price for that. It's at $500. PlayStation VR 2, we've talked about this before as far as the lack of support PSVR 2 has been given. I had a long conversation with TJ Johnson on this. It seems like Sony, in its infinite wisdom, again, Sony is either hot and cold. When Sony puts out a lot of stuff, they are definitely like Netflix. They just throw a lot of stuff out there and they see what sticks. If they like it, if people like it, they will stick with it. But they do not have enough patience for if it does not do well. Like the Vita, I remember the special monitor that they had, all the different headset variations that they've had over the years, all
Yep.
the different devices that they've had over the years that they've just given up on. The PlayStation phone. You guys remember we were talking about the cell phones, yeah, the PlayStation phone that they gave up on. If they don't like it, they get off it and just leave it to die. PSVR 2, it's so weird because for the most part, all year long, people talking about how they provided very little context for it other than the fact that you can now plug it into your PC with an adapter. And now all of a sudden they went put on a sale to try and put it back in the limelight just a little bit. I don't know. I'd see this as a last gasp for Sony. What are your thoughts on the PSVR 2?
I mean, I feel like they've wasted a lot of money on a product that nobody's buying, because I mean there are other, like, the MetaQuest, and what was the Oculus, Oculus became MetaQuest, right? Or what was the,
Yeah,
I don't
something I
remember that
believe
word,
that's correct.
but Sony just, they're not, the MetaQuest is ahead of Sony definitely in the VR experiences, and there's really nothing good on the PSVR. They had the Horizon thing that came out, and people like, oh, okay, well, this is happening, and not really. They haven't really released anything else that's of any significant note to anybody who plays games.
Could be worse. Could be the Vision Pro from Apple. Yeah. So
Yeah, I mean, very very well could be.
I noticed that one didn't go on sale. I might be wrong on it, but I noticed there were no real sales on it. So that took it from what, 3,000 to 2,500 or something like that. Yeah,
Mhm. Yeah.
that's down payment for a car. Yeah,
Right.
sorry.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, can't do that. So yeah, what are your thoughts out there on VR? Is it something more intriguing to you now after the Black Friday deals, which some may still be available? You might want to check your local retailer. Or is VR still something that's down the future for you or not at all? Please let us know, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Before we head on out, a couple streaming shows I wanted to hit. Arcane Season 2. Let's go with the good first. Arcane Season 2 getting more high marks as far as, again, after it came off such an award-winning season in its first season. But they've shut it down after Season 2. They ended the series. Netflix did. Behind the scenes, most are citing the actual costs because it's one of the most expensive animated series of all time as the reason why. Based off the League of Legends, Arcane has come into its own in season 2. A lot of people are happy with it, but wanted to see it extended. but are not going to get that. Your thoughts on Arcane Season 2 before we get into what is very controversial right now in streaming.
So this is weird to me. So this must mean that having a successful show does not necessarily translate to more subscriptions. Otherwise, the cost of the show wouldn't matter because they keep making it if it was getting people to actually continue subscribing to the show. So
Correct.
I guess it goes to teach us a little something about Netflix's business plan. Or not business plan, but how their business operates. And in that case, what is the point of putting out these big budget shows?
I hear you, my friend. What is the point indeed? But last but not least was something you talked about with Brank on the Super BS, and that is one of the most talked about series that's out there, and not exactly for the greatest of reasons. Dune Prophecy, which is a predecessor to the events of the two Dune movies by Denis Villeneuve, about set out 10,000 years from now and 10,000 years before those two movies. You said you have no desire. I remember distinctly hearing the words, you have no desire to watch this. I have heard very mixed reviews. Melinda was very excited to check this out when she got the opportunity to. It does go into more of the certain aspects of the origination of some of the houses, and also as well some of the orders that make up the world of Dune. Your thoughts on why Dune Prophecy is so talked about, and not necessarily for the right reasons, even though, again, talking about and watched may be two different things.
I This is like we're getting into that whole, would people rather watch movies as a movie experience or watch the side stories as a show experience? And I think that there's a fine line there, right? I mean, I think Dune was as successful as it was because people could go out and see the spectacle of it on this massive screen and have all like the amazing sound coming through. So knowing that, like, how could you take an experience that is as massive as Dune and put it on such a small screen? I think that um I mean, personally for me, like that's a big detractor unless I get so enveloped in Dune lore that I'm like, oh, I need to know how the whatever
House of
the
Harkonnen started.
House of Harkonnen and the witch ladies and all that. I need to
Yes.
know how that all got started, but I don't care that much. I mean, and here's the thing: if they had like a theatrical run of the first season or whatever, chances are I would probably go check it out. But I this is not something I care to watch just on my television.
Yeah, I obviously don't want to see the originations of the Bene Gesserit, showing that the House of Harkonnen was actually a good family in the beginning, originating as far as is concerned. Kind of was a nice little twist, but yeah, I can see that it's being talked about. It's being watched. Whether or not it will hold its audience reminds me a lot of the Lord of the Rings series, where it was talked about a lot, mainly because of the price tag, and wasn't followed through upon. And it's been kind of slowly drifting as far as the ratings in various seasons going forward. But well, again, we'll see how this Dune Prophecy plays out. They did find success with the Penguin season 1, so maybe they'll find success with Dune Prophecy as well, Josh.
Hey, anything's possible at this point, right? we'll
Yes.
we'll see. I mean, Max, the one thing I do credit Max with is they do follow through with their shows. They give their storytellers a chance to finish their stories, and that's a little bit more than Netflix can currently boast.
What are your thoughts out there on Arcane Season 2 and Doom Prophecy? Please let us know your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, been a great show. Truly appreciate your time as always. Black Friday, the dust has settled. But any last thoughts on a happy hoarder before we head on out?
Not quite yet, man. I'll make some announcements here in a little bit, but I mean, we're kind of stalled right now. So we'll more to come on the Happy Hoarder stuff later.
So for Josh the Great Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the Pop Culture Cosmos. Thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great day.